The Solo Show is brought to you by Victor Naraki Realtor, serving Disney and the greater Orlando area with celebratingflorida.com and disneyatyourdoorstep.com. In a world where they say the sequel is never as good as the original, one podcaster stands alone and says, "Hold my Dr. Pepper."
And Cassandra was looking at one of the costumes, and she said, I can twirl tassels with my and I said, oh. Well, I went home and drew that.
Join us now as we welcome back Pete Menofee to talk about not one, but two amazing careers. This multiple Emmy winner has worked with some of the biggest names in Hollywood over the past 50 years. That's coming up next on The Solo Show. Victor Naraki would like to take this opportunity to thank all of his clients and customers for their support throughout the past year. Victor would like to remind all of you that this is the time for family and friends to come together and celebrate this joyful season in whatever form it takes for you and your loved ones. Be kind to each other in this festive season and the new year ahead. On behalf of The Solo Show and Victor Naraki, here's a wish for a safe, happy, and healthy new year.
Hello and welcome to another edition of The Solo Show. I am Stan Solo as always, and we are back, my friends, with Pete Menofee. We are going to continue talking about his career. If you missed part one, you don't have to stop and go back and listen to it right now, because part one is kind of completely different than part two. We're going to talk about his second part of his career, where he was a costume and stage designer for TV, television, and stage, pretty much, I believe. Absolutely, you're not going to believe the people that he's worked with. It boggles my mind when I go through the list. Welcome back to the show, Pete. How are you?
Thanks. Great.
So we talked about in part one how you were a dancer, and you worked with Elvis on several movies. You worked with Dick Van Dyke and Julie Andrews. You worked with Audrey Hepburn, doing all these different movies and stage with shows and whatnot, doing dancing. You saw the writing on the wall. You started taking these night courses to become a costume designer and a sketch artist for costumes. Were you doing that at the same time as you were still performing?
Well, the deal was I began sketching for people, and the same person that got me into sketching, Tony Urbano, said, you have good ideas. He said, you should do what Bob Mack did. And I said, what's that? And he said he went to Chenard Art Institute and learned how learn construction, because I didn't sew, and I didn't really know how stuff went together. I could draw it, but I had no idea how to make it. Mm-hmm. And so going to Chenard was expensive, even for night school. And so I took the Jonathan Winters variety show at CBS as a dancer. And on Monday and Tuesday, I'd rehearse and then go drive to downtown LA and go to night class on Mondays and Tuesdays. Wednesdays, we would do a run through in a rehearsal hall. Thursday, we did camera blocking. Friday, I would shoot a dress and show. And then Saturday and Sunday, I draw for other people. I did that for 2 years.
2 years?
2 years, God. Yeah. 2 years of the Jonathan Winters show.
Okay.
And then at the end of it, I put a portfolio together of a variety show. Variety shows were very hot then.
Yeah.
And I did sketches of a host and a hostess and guest stars and dancers and funny stuff and pretty stuff. And I took my dog and pony show around to all the producers that I had worked with as a dancer and choreographer and stuff. And I said, look, I've gone to night school for 2 years, and this is what I can do now. And I started getting work, and I ended up as a staff sketch artist at NBC. I drew all of the shows at NBC television, except Laugh-In. I drew a Jerry Lewis show, Phyllis Diller show, the Dean Martin show, the Bob Hope specials. I
think Brady Bunch, would that be part of that?
No.
That was
Brady
later?
Bunch was a lot later.
Okay.
This was
like your big break then was working for NBC now.
Right. And one day, Angie, who was the head of NBC Wardrobe, called me in her office. And she said, I showed your sketches to Edith Head, and she'd like you to assist her on a Debbie Reynolds special. And I
Oh,
thought,
wow.
wow, Edith Head. Well, that's my ticket to doing movies. And
Okay.
so I worked with Edith for a day. And I went home and I was so excited about it. I had done 8 sketches for Edith during the day that we talked, but we had talked about the whole show. So I did 8 more sketches of
Mhm.
different stuff that we had talked about. And I thought if she doesn't like them, I'll redraw them. And if she likes them, she'll be impressed and think I'm a go-getter. And so I came in the next day and Angie said, come in the office. And she said, Edith quit yesterday.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, oh, shit. and she said, but let me see the pictures. And I said, well, these are the 8 that I did for Edith. And then these are 8 that I did to show her today. And she said, wait a minute. And she got the producer on the phone and she said, he'd like to see you. So I got in my car and I drove over to Bob's office and I showed him the sketches and told him 8 were things that Edith had talked to me about and 8 were things I'd done to show her that I thought would be right. And he looked at me and said, how would you like to do the show?
Oh, wow.
And,
Mhm.
I was 26 or 27, and I was stupid. I said, oh, I'd love to do the show. Well, I ended up with Debbie Reynolds and 300 children on location in San Diego. And
Yeah, design costumes for.
yeah. I mean, it was a huge show.
Mhm.
And then after that, I got Hollywood Palace that I
Mhm.
had danced on for the first 3 years, and I designed the ninth year of it. And then from that, I got a Bing Crosby special, and then
Mhm.
I got a Pearl Bailey special, and and I got 3. I was hired by ABC for 3 Chevy specials, and the wild thing was one of the last things that I auditioned for as a dancer was Hello Dolly. I did a screen test for Barnaby in it.
Okay.
And at the end of the screen test, Gene said, it says here you're a dancer. And I said, yeah. And he said, we still have film. I want you to do something for me. And I said, okay. And he said, I want to see you do pirouette. I said, well, do you want a ballet pirouette or a jazz pirouette? He said, I don't care. I just want to see you turn. And so I wasn't a fabulous dancer, but I could turn like a top. I
Mhm.
mean, and I did 6 turns on my good side to the right side.
Jazz style, I'm
Eh,
guessing, not
eh,
ballet.
eh, No, I did ballet. I did
Oh,
ballet
okay.
because
Okay.
I thought it would impress him and ended
Yeah.
in 5th position. And he looked at me and said, can you do that again? And I did it again. And so he took me aside after they cut the film and he said, look, you're not what I'm looking for Barnaby, but I'd love to have you dance in the film. And I said, gee, I've been going to night school. I'm trying to get out of dancing. And I really appreciate it. I'd love to do it. I'd love to work for Michael Kidd, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to say no.
Oh, wow.
So then a few years later, I get all these Chevy specials, and I find out Gene is going to be the host.
Mm.
And I'd worked with choreographer with Kevin Carlisle for a couple of days and drawn some of the dance stuff. And I came in for my first production meeting, and Gene was sitting there. And he turned around, he looked at me, and he did a double take, and he started laughing. He said, "Can you still turn?" And,
You remembered? Yeah.
and I said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, but I don't have to anymore." And
Oh,
that
that's
was the
funny.
beginning of working with him as a designer. He was great. He was a great guy to work with.
I just want to go back quickly for people that aren't aware. Edith Head, you mentioned she was a fashion designer, and if you are familiar with The Incredibles, Edna
Oh,
Mode, who's the
Edna.
designer in that, is based entirely off of Edith Head.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
It is
yeah. So
very
people
funny.
might not be aware of that. I just wanted to mention that.
And Edith had, I think, like 12 Oscars.
Yeah.
She was a real working designer, and I was very excited to
Hmm.
be asked to work with her.
And I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure she has a window at Disney's Hollywood Studios at Walt Disney World. I'm fairly positive she does.
Yeah, she might. I don't
Yeah,
know. Although I
yeah,
don't think she ever designed for Disney.
yeah. I think it's more of it's off a side street, not on Hollywood Boulevard. It's kind of off. Yeah.
Well, isn't Universal next to Disney? Because she was a Universal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I look back at your design history, and it completely blows me. You worked with Mork and Mindy, Circus of the Stars, Linda Carter, Dynasty Kiss, several primetime Emmys shows you did. I don't understand designing for the primetime Emmys. Is that like what was that like the dancers and stuff?
Yeah, you do. Well, you do everything. You do the host or hostess. You do the ladies that carry the Emmys on.
Mhm.
You do the production numbers. That
Okay.
mainly are there for production numbers. But I've done 5 Emmys and 5 Oscar shows.
Ceremonies, nice.
Yeah.
Miss Universe a couple of times, I
Uh,
believe.
18 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 18 years. That was my beauty pageant period. I did Miss Universe for 18 years. I did Miss USA for 18 years. I did Miss Teen USA for 17 years. I did
Wow.
Miss America for 9 years. I did Mrs. America once.
Okay.
And they were the hardest to work with.
You designed for Olivia Newton-John in the Olivia Newton-John special.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Perry Como Christmas show. That's another incredible.
I did all the Christmas shows. I did Bing. I did 3 or 4 Bing Crosby.
Mhm.
I did 4 Perry Como. I did 2 Andy Williams. Those were the days when, come November, you knew you'd be hired to do a Christmas special, and it was part of your income.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I counted on not, and I had fun doing those. They were always great. They were always everyone was always in a good mood for those.
Is there one in particular that you're extremely proud of where you went, I nailed it? That was incredible. Of the Christmas specials, TV specials, and stuff like that. Not counting let's not talk about the Emmy Awards. We'll get into
God. I don't know. The one thing that I was really proud of, and I was nominated for an Emmy for it, was they had a whole week of the unveiling of the Statue of Liberty, and I was hired by Gary Smith to do the opening ceremony, which had 4,000 costumes in it. But then I was hired by Don Mischer to do the closing ceremonies, which had 14 or 13,000 costumes. We were busing like 2,000 people in to tap dance with Liza Minnelli, and then 2,000 square dancers would bus in, and then they'd be bussed off the island.
Oh my gosh!
It was crazy, and and Gene Kelly was on that. Liza Minnelli, Shirley MacLaine, the Pointer Sisters, Patti LaBelle. It was a huge show.
Mhm.
I was nominated for it, and I lost to a show about the Appalachian Mountains where they rented all the costumes.
Oh my gosh!
I was sure I was going to win that it would be my next Emmy, and I had asked Rhett Turner to accept for me, and I was in New York doing Rockettes, doing the Radio City Musical Christmas special, and I sat in front of the TV. I thought, oh my, no way! It was the one thing that I was up for an Emmy that I was pretty sure I was going to get.
Yeah. It was called Liberty Weekend.
Yeah,
was what it was called. Yeah,
it was produced by David Wolper.
Yeah, you had won an Emmy prior to that for The Big Show in 1980.
Oh, that was my first Emmy. Yeah,
that was your first Emmy.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that experience? Now I believe the primetime Emmys, they have 2 different shows, right? They have one at the air on TV, and they have one the day before.
Well, they revolve all of us that are behind the scenes. So you're not on every year. Like costume design would be on one year, and makeup would be on another year.
Oh, okay.
They revolve you. But the year I won, I was on TV. And I had, by that time I'd worked for like 10 years, and I knew
Mhm.
everybody. I knew the cameraman, I knew the grips, I knew. And when you're nominated for an award, Academy or Emmys or whatever, they have a separate camera that's on you because they don't know who's going to win.
Right. Yeah.
And so I was sitting in the audience, and the cameraman came by, and it was someone I knew, and he said, "Good luck." And I said, "Thank you." And so they had a guy who ran cable for his TV camera, and they announced my name, and Gary Smith, or Nick Vanoff, who was in front of me, turned around and congratulated me. And I stood up, and I was like two people away from the aisle. And I stepped into the aisle, and I stepped over the cable. And the guy at that point lifted the cable up and hit me in the balls. And
Welcome
I
to the
was
pros.
running. I was running toward the stage, and I thought, God, am I going to be able to talk? I want to thank everybody.
I'd
It
like to
was.
thank.
It's such a thrill.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
God, yeah, and and then my second Emmy was off camera, but
That
they
was in
they take pictures.
1988.
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
was for Vegas's anniversary, and
Yeah.
that was a huge show. And then my last one was for the Olympics, the Winter Olympics in 2002 in Salt Lake.
Hmm.
I worked on 3 Olympics. I drew Los Angeles for Ray Agyan, and I did Barcelona closing ceremonies, and I did Salt Lake opening ceremonies.
I'm a massive Olympic fan.
Ah,
I take time off work every 2 years just to watch the Olympics. So that way, it doesn't matter where it is in the world, I can stay and watch it live.
yeah.
I actually even carried the torch in 2010 for
Oh,
the Vancouver Olympics. But and so the opening ceremony, the Salt Lake City, the entire Olympics was absolutely amazing. It
yeah, it
still gives me
really
all that.
was. It really
Yeah.
was. And if you had run torch relay, I would have done your uniform.
No, I did the Canadian one in 2010.
No, I said if you had done
Oh,
Salt Lake,
in 2002.
yeah, I would have.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would
because it
have.
was all like snowflakes and icicles. Everything was kind of the
Well,
theme almost.
yeah, yeah. And well, we used a lot of skaters, and we had a big skating numbers. I mean, huge.
Hmm.
And but it's wild because when you work for the Olympic, you're working for a producer. On 2002, it was Don Misher.
Hmm.
So I'm working with Don Misher, the choreographer that's working for Don Misher, who was Sarah. The ice skating choreographer was Sarah Karahawa. And so if you talk about a number, I do my drawings and I bring them into a meeting, and Don sees them and Sarah sees them and the budget people see them, and we talk about that. Then everything has to go to the Olympic Committee.
Oh, okay.
And I'm telling you, it is, it's trying to please all those people. It's crazy.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, it really makes you crazy. There's a thing called Child of Light, and in the opening of 2002, and he was the one that lit the torch. And for the Child of Light, I did 16 sketches.
Holy cow. Yeah, yeah.
16 sketches.
At one point, you just go, just tell me what you want already. Yeah, very, very frustrating. You designed for the rock band Kiss during was a Destiny era?
Dynasty.
Dynasty? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
How
I did.
cool is that?
Well, it was interesting.
So that's a lot of feathers that era, a lot of like
No,
colors, bright colors,
I
or,
used,
or, or
yeah,
faux fur, I guess.
yeah. Well, one of them had Peter had faux fur.
Yeah,
He had fox.
yeah.
But
There was like lion heads on the shoulders or something.
that's right. Good for
Yeah.
you. Good for you. Yeah. And Jean just had a red torn cape.
Mm-hmm.
over the armor. And the guy who was a lover had almost a Renaissance tabard on that was kind of torn up, that was all kind of purpley.
Yeah.
And of course, Ace, the spaceman,
The blue
was all
cape.
done in blue,
And it's
turquoise
kind of
blue,
silver. Yeah. Kind of shiny,
and
silvery
and a
blue.
lot
Yeah.
and a lot of silver. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. What's
and
funny, I'm not a Kiss fan by any stretch of the
neither
imagination.
neither am I.
But the Kiss fans, they're so split on that era. They either say that was the best costumes they've ever had, or they say those are the worst costumes they ever had. There's nobody in the middle, I found.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And what I wanted to do, that was the only time. Or now they use color. Ace, in fact, Ace still has his wing that I did,
Mm-hmm.
and Gene just has a regular red cape on.
Yeah.
But that was the first time color was used for them,
Yeah.
and all I wanted was for them to look like beautiful children's toys,
Okay.
that a kid would want to play with.
I could see
And
that. Yeah.
and of course they made toys out of all those
And comic
costumes
books and
and
cartoons and
comic books and yeah, the
yeah.
whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah. The other one was Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
Oh,
Uh,
one of my favorite things to do in the world. And I replace a lot of times I pinch hitted for other designers in movies
mhm.
and stuff. And Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, was one of them.
Okay,
The
so she's known for having a very daring low cut dress, black, with a very high cut slit on the side.
yeah.
I'm assuming he went with white turtleneck.
No, and in fact, my friend was the producer on the movie, Joel, and Joel called me on a Sunday, and he said, "I'd like you to come in and do a nightclub act for Elvira. That's going to be the finale of the movie." And they had already the designer who was doing the movie had done it. They didn't like,
Mhm.
and I said, "Okay." I said, "When do you need it?" He said, "Friday." And I said, "Joel, okay, I'll do it, but I want everybody together tomorrow morning at 10, and you have to either okay it or not."
Mhm.
And I stayed up all night and I drew the whole act. I drew the whole thing, except for one thing that turned out to be major. And I brought the sketches in the next morning, and the producer and the director and Elvira, Cassandra,
Mhm.
and the choreographer, everybody was there. And I showed them the act, and everybody loved it because
Nice.
it really had a sense of humor. And Cassandra was looking at one of the costumes, and she said, "I can twirl tassels with my." And I said, "Oh,
That's
well,
good to
that
know.
I went home and drew that, and she does twirl them, and she can do either direction one at a time or crisscross." It was I had so much fun doing that. I loved Cassandra, and they let me do anything stupid that I could think of. I mean, she has a big spider on her head at one point, and at another point, she had real tarantulas working on her.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
of course her brassiere for twirling were two tarantulas.
I have to look that one up.
It was very tasteful,
I have to look that one
and
up.
I had to really use my background as a Catholic altar boy and a Boy Scout to draw the act.
You mentioned that you met Cassandra Peterson. People who don't know that's who Elvira is.
Yeah.
You say she was incredibly nice. Do you get to meet pretty much everybody that you're designing for? Are you there for the fittings and whatnot?
Yeah, well, that's what you do. I
Yeah.
mean, I get hired to do something, and I usually talk to the people and measure them and find out what they like, or is there stuff that they don't like. And then I'll draw something and then show it to them. And if it's okay, then I'll make it. And I do all my own fitting. And
Okay.
so
Yeah.
I've fit Elvira and Michael Jackson and Margaret, and I mean
You did
everybody.
a lot of work with Anne Margaret, I understand.
I did.
Yeah.
I love her. We're still good friends. And
let's talk a little bit about the Radio City Rockettes, because that was something you did for quite some time too. Which I've never got to see them in person, but it's a goal of mine to go see them in person at one point. My mom was a massive fan. Whenever they were on TV, everybody had to be quiet because the Rockettes were on. She never got to see them. Unfortunately, she never will. But yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I was hired in '89 by David Nash, who was the producer then of the Christmas Spectacular, and I ended up working with them for 20 years. And
Wow.
I opened New York, but I also opened all of the Coney shows that they did, including Detroit and Los Angeles and Mexico City, which was a huge show. I mean, huge show. I loved working with the women. I really did. And, and my dance background really helped because, to do line work like that, you have to be comfortable. Nothing can bind you or make you feel awkward
or pinch or anything like that.
So I had a really good time working with them. I loved all the girls. I'm still Facebook friends with a lot of them. And
very cool.
And I had a really good time. It was terrific. And I also worked with another crack kick line, the Bluebells, who are English. They're English, and they do what the Rockettes do. And I've worked with the Bluebells forever too. So I've worked with two of the best kick lines in the world.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is it different designing something that's going to be worn for a movie once versus designing something that's going to be worn, 200 times over a course of an entire season?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like the last big Vegas show I did was called Jubilee, and it ran for 35 and a half years. And I only replaced the clothes once in it. I designed it in 78 I started. And then I got hired again to redo the whole show in the 90s, and it was that was a 3-year contract. It took a year and a half to do the show the first time. It took 3 years because they couldn't really afford the budget to do it all in 1 year, and so I worked 3 years, and then I started just coming in and doing their budget and telling them what needed to be replaced. But yeah, you construct the clothes very differently. You have to use different fabrics that hold up.
Even the thread must be considered, I'm guessing.
Everything is polyester because it has to be washed and cleaned all the time. And then it also has to go from person to person to person, because in Jubilee, over 35 years, 28 people could have worn the same costume.
Wow.
Yeah. And you really have to know what you're doing to do a show like that and have it last that long.
Well, and not only that, they're also doing these extremely quick changes. Like the Rockettes, one of their numbers, it's like a minute and a half to do the quick change. You got to take that into consideration too, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah. You rig everything for that. Everything is done. And on a quick change like that, it's set up with a dresser, say, for every 2 girls, and there are chairs set up with the costume hung in back of it. The girl starts to unzip her costume, gets out of it, changes shoes, which are set at the bottom of the chair, and then the dresser puts the new outfit on and zips them up and shoves them on stage. Yeah,
I only had time to tie one shoe. Sorry about that.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's quick changes are always, especially during dress rehearsals, they're always, oh my God, are we going to make it?
So when you watch these magicians on stage and they're doing these quick change acts, do you go, I know how that's done?
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, listen. I worked for every magician in the business.
Oh, wow. I did not
Uh,
know that.
yeah, I mean
Mhm.
all of them, and I know how you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement with every single one of
Oh,
them.
yeah. I would
You know,
imagine.
you can't tell people how this is done. You can't tell people how that is done.
Hmm.
But the truth is, once you've worked for like five of them, five different acts, there's only like six tricks in the world.
Hmm.
And it's just how you present them, how you dress them. There's
Yeah.
one trick. There's one trick called Azure the Floating Lady that everybody has seen, and it's always a woman, and she's floating in the air, and her dress is hanging over the side, and her
Hmm.
hair is hanging down.
Hmm.
Well, I did it. So there was nothing. A girl had a beaded. I did it for Siegfried and Roy, and
Okay.
the girl was in a beaded body stocking with just fringe on one leg and one arm, and her
Hmm.
hair hanging down. And it
Hmm.
really, because the dress hanging down always worked, but this way you could see a whole nude body floating.
Oh,
It
very
was,
cool.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned laundering them. A lot of these costumes, they have feathers, they have fur, they have stuff like that. How do you laundry something like that?
Well, a lot of stuff, the feathers, if a girl is working as a showgirl,
Hmm.
uh, usually the feathers are on a different rig. They're either on the hat or they're on a back brace. So they never really touch the woman.
Oh, okay.
But the G string does, or the skirt, or the
Hmm.
brassiere, and
Hmm.
those are what have to be cleaned
Yeah.
constantly.
Yeah.
The feathers, they're all kinds of different things. You can powder the feathers and then brush it out to clean them. They use cornstarch on the feathers sometimes.
Okay.
And then the feathers are replaced a lot of times during a show because they don't last forever.
Yeah.
But
You mentioned working with the Vegas showgirls. Was this the same time as the Rockettes? You did Rockettes for 20 years. But I guess the Rockettes were more during the certain time of year only.
no, no, no. In fact, the Rockettes were in Vegas.
Okay.
At one point, I did a tour show for Radio City called the Spectacular Tour, and it had all the big numbers that Radio City was famous for: the underwater number, the Wood Soldiers,
Hmm.
a big showgirl finale, and that ended up in Vegas for at least 9 years. At least it
Okay.
played right across the street from Jubilee.
Yeah, yeah. So the Rockettes are celebrating 100 years this year. How does it feel to be realistically a huge part of that?
It feels great. I'm very, very proud of my work with the ladies, and it was always a joy. I mean, it was it's a privilege to design for something like that. And I'm telling you something, I have never done drugs, but sitting in the audience at Radio City Music Hall in the middle of 6,000 people and hearing them react to what I did, to either laugh at it if it was something funny or go,
Yeah,
ooh, that's my drug. That
yeah.
really is my drug.
That's a great way to put it.
It's so great to know that you've moved that many people, 6,000 people
Yeah,
in an auditorium, and you're hearing them all react to the same thing.
that is awesome.
I love that. Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit more about the actual designing process. I'm assuming, so if you're doing a stage show, you're working with stage lighting, different types of fabric and all that.
Oh yeah.
All this comes into
Mhm.
consideration. You work with the lighting crew and stuff, or do they do their thing? You do their thing. How does that work?
No, I design it, they light it.
Okay.
But they all see sketches of
Yeah.
stuff, and occasionally I've worked well. Almost all the lighting people I've worked with have been absolutely sensational, and some of them have just been a real privilege to work with, like Theron Musser, who is a famous Broadway lighting director.
Mm.
But
Like
sometimes.
you don't want to have it. It's supposed to be white, and they're shining a red light on it. That doesn't work
Oh,
very well.
nobody does that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
at the same time, sometimes they'll surprise you. I did a Toulouse-Lautrec number on the Big Show. And of course, it had to be Toulouse-Lautrec costume, stuff that he drew. So I did it, but I did it. I jerked the color up just a little bit. And then I splashed paint on a lot of it. So it looked like his painting.
Okay.
And we were at the production meeting and I was showing them the sketches and everyone was ooh and ah and stuff. And I said to Bill Klages, who was lighting it, I said to Bill, I don't know what kind of a psych you want in back of this, but, maybe a turquoise would be good or a gold.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, oh, okay, fine. So we came to shoot that day. And of course, the psych was white when we got the kids all dressed and set up. And we start to shoot the number and the lights come up and the whole psych was chartreuse green. And the clothes really popped in front of it.
Nice.
I was thrilled. So, but lighting people, Ken Billington, all the people I've worked with are sensational to work with. But my clothes come first.
Mm-hmm.
And then they work with the scenic people. Scenery and clothes come first. Then the lighting people do their magic for us.
Yeah. How about like hair and makeup people? Same type of situation?
I worked very, very closely with them always.
Yeah.
In fact, hair. I'll usually draw the hair and ask them to do it exactly like that. And the same thing with makeup people.
Mm-hmm. I've talked to some people that design cartoons, like animated characters.
Yeah.
Like whether it's The Simpsons or even like Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck. And they all say you could take a silhouette of a character where it's just a black outline and you know immediately who that character is. You don't have to color them in.
Yeah.
Is that the same type of situation when you're designing some of your costumes, all your costumes, or none of your costumes?
No, not at all. Not at all. Because, if you did a silhouette of a costume, it would look generic. It would be a woman in a full skirt. It would be a woman in a leotard, so you see her legs. If you draw Mickey Mouse or Heckle and Jekyll, you know exactly in a black profile what it is, or Bugs Bunny or something, because they're physically, they're something very, very special that doesn't really exist except for that character.
Well, plus you're dealing with 2 dimensions versus 3 dimensions, I guess, as well.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So how does it work if you're hired to do let's say the Christmas special for Perry Como? Do they tell you what they want, or they give you free reign, or is it different in every case?
They generally, the way everything works is somebody will tell me we're doing a number, and then I think about the number and who's doing it, how many dancers will be involved, and then I do my take on it. I'll tell you, a good example was my first Hollywood Palace that I did. I came into, we had a production meeting at 8 in the morning on Monday, and we shot on Friday. So you had, from the time you found out what it was until the time it was on camera, you had 5 days. That was it.
Oh, wow.
And we went in and we had Engelbert Humperdinck on the show as a host, and he was going to open with a number, and it was kind of a slinky number. It was a kisas, and I knew the number, and they said, well, wouldn't it be great if it was in a discotheque? And I thought, oh, shit, I don't want to do another go-go number. And I said, yeah, that would be terrific. But what if the discotheque was in Marrakesh, which was very hot at that time?
Yeah.
And so everybody jumped on that. The music started sounding a little oriental. The scenery was like a Marrakesh discotheque.
Yeah.
And I did the girls all in gold, around Engelbert. So, that's what I loved about designing. It's like playing with your friends. You can do anything you want. And if you have the reputation of coming in on budget and having this stuff look good, you work.
Yeah. Did you find winning the Emmys easier to get work afterwards?
No.
Didn't help?
No. It's terrific. I mean, it really is terrific to get stuff like that. But it's not important as far as your work goes. Your work speaks for itself,
Very good.
and that's what makes people want to hire you. And I got the reputation very early on of being able to do really large shows, really big shows, and still be on budget,
Hmm.
and
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 on time is
still
probably important too, I'm guessing.
and well, budget and time are the same thing,
Yeah.
and have it look good, have
Hmm.
it look attractive, that people go, oh my God, did you see that last week?
Hmm.
And so your reputation is really what gets you job.
Yeah.
Also, if you're pleasant to work with, because people who are not easy to work with very often won't get
Nobody wants them.
a lot of won't well no, that's not true, because I've worked with some really rotten people
Oh, okay.
that were famous,
Yeah.
but generally, especially behind the scenes, it
Hmm.
really helps if you're easy to work with,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
and of course, I think it's fun, and I've certainly worked with people I didn't care for and stuff, but you still get to do what you get to do,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's always, to me, it's always been the joy of creating, and the challenge of creating stuff.
Very nice.
And of course, the bigger budget you have, the more fun you have. And I spent originally on Jubilee, I spent $2.5 million on the clothes, and the
Wow.
clothes were made in Hollywood, in Paris.
Hmm.
The shoes were made in Paris. The
Hmm.
jewelry was made in Paris, but came from Swarovski in Czechoslovakia.
Yeah.
So you get on a gig like that, and the whole world's at your feet.
I can't imagine having to design 1,000 costumes and planning budget at the same time.
Well, you when you draw, when you think of something and you draw, you do everything. You think
Hmm.
about how it's going to be constructed. You think
Yeah.
about how it's going to be cleaned. You think about how much it'll cost. And
Yeah.
even on Jubilee, the budget was so huge, but I had to take every sketch in and have budget meetings with the entire staff of the MGM Grand.
Hmm.
And sometimes you'd have a principal woman, and she'd have very expensive feathers on and stuff. And
Hmm.
you'd say, this costume is $12,000. And they'd go, fine, beautiful. Other times I'd bring a sketch in that would be 48 women in a line,
Yeah.
36 and 12 swings. And I'd say, this is going to be 3,500, and they would say, cut 500 out.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you could juggle within the whole show.
Hmm.
You can figure out how to make that work.
Yeah. We won't be
But
double stitching this one.
yeah, right. But when you draw, that's why I think drawing is so important.
Yeah.
It makes you think about how it's going to go together, how it will move, how it can be cleaned, how it can be adjusted from one person to another, how
Hmm.
much it will cost, what kind of fabric you want to use for it.
Hmm.
I mean, you do that all in your head, and when you get it on paper, you kind of know what all those answers are.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Uh,
I mean, I'm not going to wash the clothes, but I can tell somebody, I'm making it so the skirt comes off, so the bodice can be washed separately, and the
mhm.
skirt can be washed every 2 weeks, maybe.
Okay. We're going to wrap this up. I have one final question for you. You're retired now. You've been retired for a bit. Do you watch TV shows and movies now and critique fashion design, or do you go, I wish I designed that, or they could have done better? What happens now?
No.
Not at all.
First of all, I haven't watched TV in 6 years.
Okay.
So, and there's nothing on that's really costuming.
Hmm.
But I've seen Broadway shows and stuff, and you either admire the stuff like I remember when I saw Wicked, the clothes were fabulous in it, and
Mhm.
they're fabulous in the movie too. He did a really good job,
It's funny.
and
That's exactly the movie I was thinking of that I was going to ask you about was Wicked.
yeah.
Had you seen it and what you thought of the costumes in that?
Oh, it's incredible. The costumes are incredible and beautifully made.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
beautifully made. And then he posts a lot of stuff on Facebook, and you see just the costumes on a dummy, and you can really see how it's constructed.
Hmm.
They're made. It's really some of the prettiest work I've ever seen. Really,
Very nice.
really
Very nice.
sensational.
I really want to thank you for coming on, Pete. This was
Ah,
incredible. I've been wanting to have you on for pretty much a year. I've been, been trying
wow,
to
wow.
trying to
Ah,
work getting you on, and I wanted to do some research and do this right because I really
thank
admire
you.
everything that you did in your dance and especially in your fashion. Is there one that you're more proud of?
I'm sorry.
Is there one career you kind of have two completely separate careers?
No, I love them both.
You
I
love them
love
both.
performing. It was great. My second career was probably better than my first, but I enjoyed both. I enjoyed both of them.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really did. Performing was always terrific. I had a good time doing that. And designing was a whole different thing because you got to work with a different people, a lot of
Hmm.
different people. I got to work with all of the people off camera as well as the people on camera,
Yeah.
and a lot of them have become lifelong friends. And I've been very lucky. I've gotten to do really sensational things, and
You have. You really have.
I appreciate that. And I have always, particularly in my design career, I've always had very good friends and mentors. I mean, Bob Mackey and Ray Agian.
Mhm.
I all of those people you learn from. You work with them, you learn from them. Um,
Very cool.
and I appreciate all that, but I've been real lucky, and especially now you look, and I still teach, but I always wonder what someone who wants to design is going to do for a living. I mean, they could do Broadway, but
Hmm.
everything that I did for a living is kind of doesn't exist anymore. TV variety doesn't exist. Large Vegas shows don't exist. Ice shows don't exist, and I feel very fortunate that I was there to be able to be a part of all that, and I wonder where young people that want to do the same thing I did, what they're going to have a chance doing.
Yeah, there's only so many wickets coming around every year,
Well, yeah, and Taswell has that one locked
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
He did such a beautiful job on it,
yeah.
and but that just shows you there always going to be new people that come with new ideas and new talents.
Hmm.
But it's like my dancing career. I look at people dancing now, and I could never do anything they're doing.
Hmm.
That or tumbling. It has progressed so far, and you look at Taswell's work in Wicked, and you think, God, where would you? Even if you could think of how to do it, where would you find people that could make stuff like that?
Yeah.
Because there are
Well,
no,
they're out there. I mean, yeah, there's
well,
people that.
they are, but they sure would be hard to find. There,
Yeah.
none of the shops that I worked out of on the West Coast exist here anymore. And I had lunch with Bob Mackey several years ago, and he was
Hmm.
still working out of New York. And I said, "Where do you build your stuff now?" And he said, "Well, not in LA.
Hmm.
Nothing, no, there's no place here." And I mean, this used to be one of the centers of,
Yeah.
when a shop goes out of business, all those people are gone. You know, the milliners are gone, the beaters are gone, the people who know how to sew beautifully are gone.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we were lucky to have them all together in different shops. And so you could go in and you could crank a show out in 5 days.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that would even be possible now.
Yeah, it's interesting to think. I think it's going to come back. Everything that once was will be, and I'm a optimist that we'll see it again. I really want the variety TV shows to come back, because there is like nothing on right now other than game shows.
But you know, I thought when I was doing variety television, which I did for like 20 years, I thought I would be 90 and I'd still be cranking out Christmas shows and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it all by 85, it kind of didn't exist anymore, you know. And the problem today is if you wanted a variety show, where are you going to find a Carol Burnett? Where are you going to find a Perry Como? Where are you going to find an Andy Williams? You know, I mean, especially Carol, because you know you have to have the talent there to do something.
Yeah.
Before you can design it.
It's true.
Yeah. And I don't see anybody that has that kind of breadth in their talent these days. Everybody's kind of, you know, a one shot, and it goes all the way down. It goes producers. Don Arden produced the biggest Vegas shows ever. Where the hell are you going to find another Don Arden?
Yeah. Well, now it's the Sphere where you just watch videos on a big screen.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're kind of grave digging too, because it's Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
It's a 1938 movie.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about everybody that's using my costumes right now in movies and stage shows and stuff. They're still using stuff I designed in 1994.
There you go.
And you think, well, doesn't anybody else put feathers and stuff together? You know, and I think it's flattering, but I consider it grave digging, because, you know, they're using it without telling people who did it. You know, it's just there. It's like candy.
They don't even know who did it anymore.
Yeah. Well,
alrighty. Okay, we're going to wrap this up. I want to thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you.
This has been an absolute blast. I really enjoyed this chat for over the last couple of weeks. Ken, take us away.
If you have a brilliant idea for a future edition of The Solo Show and would like to take your turn in the guest host's chair, then drop us an email at thesoloshow01@gmail.com. Tell us about your idea for a show and we'll contact you about a date and a time for you to join us. If you would just like to keep the conversation going or have a comment about a previous show, then visit us on Facebook at The Solo Show. Don't forget to join us on YouTube, like us and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you'll never miss a new show. All logos, songs, music, and sounds that are made by and for Disney and its affiliates are owned by the Disney Corporation and are not, nor are they intended to be owned by the Solo Show podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks for listening, and bye for now.